On today's drive, what we're going to be doing is testing autopilot versus driver to see how much time from my commute to work I will be driving the car versus autopilot being able to drive the car, just to see how close we are in comparison. So let's get started here. The clock's already been starting. I'm obviously driving right now. I'm driving at the stop sign. And so every chance I get, I'll be on autopilot, and then you guys will see, and I'll narrate through what we have to do in order to, really see how often you have to interact. So as soon as I see the steering wheel, I'll put it on. So for those of you guys who are new to Tesla, let me kind of walk you through what's going on here. I know you can't see the screen quite as well with this camera view, but the reason I'm doing it this way is so you can see. Now look at this, I'm hitting the speed bump at 25 miles an hour. Normally you wouldn't want to do that, but that's one thing. Right now, autopilot does not slow down for speed bumps. So you got to be aware of that if you're just getting into autopilot and you're not used to that little, feature yet, or lack of. So what you're noticing is it's keeping me at the speed limit here. We're coming up to a stop light. You'll see that the car is going to pick to go in the turn lane, so I'm going to have to interact and come over here. So you'll see now the timer is now counting for the time spent driving, not autopilot. So now that I turn the corner here, as soon as I see the steering wheel again, you can see it right there. What you do is you pull down twice on this, and then what happens is it turns the lines on my screen blue, and that means that I'm in autopilot. So right now the car is completely driving on its own. Regulation requires me to keep my hand right here on the wheel, but you'll see that I don't actually engage or help the car driving in any way. And when I say engage, it's because our last video, that 45-minute straight drive that Teslarati and Reddit, they put it all over. Watch this, by the way. I also now I'm going to take control to get over into this turn lane, and then see if I can make this turn here before the light turns. Yeah, nice. I love it. A lot of people are like, "Hey, his hand's on the wheel the whole time. What is this? No interaction." And if you're new to what goes on with autopilot right now, that would be a very valid question to have. But here's how it works. Right now, with where regulation stands, your hand has to stay on the wheel. Every 30 seconds, if I'm not touching the wheel, I'll show you guys here. What happens is a little notification will pop up on the screen telling me I need to touch the wheel, put some pressure on it. If I don't, then it'll start going blue up here, and then it'll start beeping at me. And if I still don't touch the screen, what happens is it's going to just stop the car. It'll just slow down and come to a complete stop right now in the middle of the road. And basically it says, you can no longer see. Here's the warning coming up. Now watch what happens. You see here it says starting to go blue here, and pretty soon what it'll do is it'll ping at me and tell me get a hold of that wheel. So see, it's flashing a little bit faster here, and now it's telling me to touch it. So I put my hand on it and it knows, and then we're fine. So where the car is coming to a complete stop on its own right now, because you can see we got a car in front of us there that it's tracking. And so right now where autopilot stands is if that car in front of us stops at the light, then this car will also stop at the light. If it doesn't stop at the light and blows it, for example, like let's say that the car were to at the last second run through a yellow light, but just at the tail end of it, your car is going to do the same thing. You are completely reliant on the car directly in front of you right now where it stands. Now let's talk about where it does stand. I'm on the latest software update. Update 2020.4.1 is the current status or current software I'm running on. I have hardware 3.0. My car is a long-range all-wheel drive model, and I bought it back in November 2019. So it's got all the latest software on the car, latest hardware. Everything is good for full self-drive when that eventually comes out here. But for now, we have to, stop for stop signs. We have to turn it on in-ear city. Really where autopilot shines right now is on the interstates and the freeways. And so we don't see a lot in the inner city other than what you're seeing right now. So I'm also, just because you guys can't see my feet are not on the brake. Again, a little warning there. They're not on the brake. They're not on the accelerator. It's doing all that on its own. It's coming to a complete stop it's re-accelerating again. And one of the biggest differences here is, like with my MDX, I have a 2016 Acura MDX. Well, that car, 2018 Acura MDX. That car, with its adaptive cruise control, if you get below 40 miles per hour, first of all, a lot of times that doesn't even work, but if it does, it's really jerky. I want you guys to watch here how smooth the acceleration is and the braking of the car in front. Okay, it is, and by the way, I want to keep saying this over and over again. Each time you see me go like this and put my hand on the wheel, I am not correcting the car. Let me show you what happens, by the way, if I do correct the car. Listen, hear that noise? That means I actually helped the car. And that noise was the sound of autopilot being turned off. You cannot, watch if I touch the brake. See, sound again. You cannot help the car without it being, autopilot being turned off. And you can know that by hearing that ding dong, that sound of me shutting it down. And so me resting my hand here is not doing it. Plus the blue steering wheel here you can see on my screen. As long as you can see that, you know I'm in autopilot and you know that I have not in any way mess with it. Now, here's the thing. You will see me do a couple things, or one thing really, on the freeway. And that is, I will adjust the speed right here. Okay, that is not interacting with autopilot. I don't have to touch it. It's just that if I want to go faster than the speed limit, which is what autopilot will keep me at, you just have to adjust the steering or the speed right here by sliding this wheel up and down. What I will not do though, when I don't have to, is I will not steer the wheel, and I will not accelerate or brake. It'll keep me in the lines very, very well. That's what you're looking at. But getting back to the MDX, as well as my old Infiniti that I just sold to buy this, is what was happening is you would get, when you would start to slow down, it would be like very aggressive. You'd be going fast, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, like that. You'd like jerk. And then when it would go again, they would go a big distance. All of a sudden the car would accelerate. Before it would take off. It was really, really aggressive. And that's because, it's not able to read, the car in front with all the cameras and the sensors and the radar and everything. So it doesn't know exactly when the car in front is moving. It just doesn't have enough things talking to it. The radar it just does so much to help with that. The sensors, the cameras. There's so many things inside the Tesla that allow it to be real smooth. One thing that's interesting is you can see here, you see all these cones? If we were closer to those cones, the car would know it was in a construction zone, and you would get a notice on the screen that says construction zone detected. So here's something too that's interesting. What happened there was something shattered on the road, some glass of sorts, it looked like. So right now autopilot can't detect things like that on the road, so you got to be really aware of that when you're driving. So I had to kind of surf around it. But when I did that there, when I turned, you saw autopilot turn off, you heard it, but what did not turn off was the adaptive cruise control. So when you look at the screen, you see this blue circle around what's called your max speed, that you have your max speed at. And as long as that is blue, that means that there is that it's still in adaptive cruise control. So it's still gonna, keep me to my max of 45 miles per hour. It's still gonna adjust me based off the car in front of me. The only thing I lose when I move the steering wheel is the ability for it to self-drive. For it to steer itself. Now, if you hit the brake instead of just touching the steering wheel, it shuts it all off. Okay, so steering wheel just shuts off steering, brake shuts off all autopilot and adaptive cruise control. So again, we're stopped at a stop light, and because of the car in front of us stopped, so did the car. So right now, as you can see, the autopilot clock is still rolling. It's still rolling. I obviously can't see the time frames right now because the timer I'm going to be putting in post. But you'll see here on the two how much interaction you actually have on a normal drive. So this is somebody, I guess, who's going, okay, on a normal drive, how often do you use autopilot? How often do you have to drive yourself? And it works, and it's really, really great. And by the way, so this warning thing, it'll go through 2 full cycles of that. So it's 30 seconds each time when you have to touch the wheel. And then then you'll get this warning, it'll ding at you, and then it'll do it another 30 seconds. So you get a full minute before the car shuts you down and then says you can no longer use autopilot the rest of the time on this drive. And then what happens is if you go and put your car into park and then drive again, then it will let you use your navigation autopilot again. And just to keep the distinction really clear, you're going to see pretty soon the difference between Navigate and Autopilot and Autopilot. It's very, very different, like very different. And we'll cover those things here in a minute. But maybe right now you're looking at buying a Tesla, or you have a Tesla and you haven't paid for the full self-drive package and you're considering buying it. Well, this is going to be a good thing for you to consider, because there's some very distinct differences when it comes to full self-drive. And, you know, to be honest, here's my thoughts where it stands today. And you guys are going to see this in the 5,000 mile impressions video that is going to be coming out soon. But by the way, here's something else. Like look at this giant SUV right here beside me. See, the car detects it, it sees it there, but it didn't just like let the car in, which, you know, it'd be kind of nice if it did, right? Like, it would be nice if it saw that this car is merging. But the thing is right now, the way that Autopilot's working is it doesn't see that car is in a merging lane. On a freeway, it would, okay? It'll see the lane coming at an angle. It'll see it on the map. See, right now, when you look on the map, there's nothing about that looks like a merge. You can see a little road there, but it doesn't look like it's an on-ramp. Whereas on the freeway, they know it's an on-ramp. So when the car sees a car out here, it knows it's coming over, and what it'll do is it'll mark it dark gray. And then the car says, well, I'm either going to accelerate or I'm going to slow down to let that car in. But when someone's merging from a side road like that, the car doesn't know that they're merging. It just looks like they're driving beside you. And so it's not going to let them in. So that's something that it's like, so here's a stoplight that I have to actually stop for, because it is, there was no car in front of me. So there's where you're seeing me interacting. Now, I can't put it into Autopilot for two reasons right now. One, if I put it into it, I would shoot through the intersection. Second, you can't put it into it because the car cannot see lines in front of me right now. Okay, it's interesting with road lines. So let's talk about this for a second. So to engage Autopilot, the car needs to see the road lines, the paint lines, the side lines, you know, the yellow and the white lines. Got to see it to engage it. Usually, if the car can see one of the lines, it can also turn on. So maybe you got a road that's got nothing on the right side. It's kind of like a bank or a little side hill or whatever. But on the left side of you, it's got the yellow line. Okay, it can still engage it there. It can see both lines. So starting it does need to have road lines to start it. But let's say that I was going through this intersection and I was already in Autopilot. Well, that's no problem. Even if there was no car in front of me, it would have been no problem. The car will just draw the lines ahead as it normally, would. And so you say, well, what if you had to turn in this intersection? Well, we don't know about that yet because we haven't seen that part, Navigate and Autopilot in the city come to us yet. So watch. So the light's green now. So as soon as you'll see, the steering wheel will pop up when I'm allowed to put it in. Now, as soon as I get right here into the lines, there it is, and we're back into it. I slide up the speed to go 5 over, and now the car's back in control. So we've got a green light ahead of us. So if it turns yellow before we get to it, specifically red, I'm going to have to stop the car again. But it looks like we're going to be fine. Another thing you'll see too is if you go through an intersection where there's no lines, like a big gap, it'll pop up and say, touch the wheel, touch the wheel. And I think what it's doing is it doesn't know exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It always does a good job. But the thing is it wants to know that you're paying attention to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So sometimes it'll tell you even before 30 seconds to touch the wheel when it's unsure of itself. I've had it going through big wide intersections, 5, 6, car length gaps and stuff, and it's been less than 30, maybe 10 seconds since I last touched the wheel. And then all of a sudden now, can I watch this real quick? I got to disengage, so I pressed on the brake, which shut it all off. I turn on my blinker and get into the turn lane to merge onto Highway 18. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But what will happen is I'll go to the intersection, and maybe I just touched the wheel 10 seconds ago. But because, again, I'm in an area the car's a little unsure of, it says, touch the wheel, Cody. Touch the wheel, and it goes, okay. So what I'm doing is okay, because otherwise he would have changed what I'm doing, and I know that because he's now touching the wheel. And so then it kind of takes away the warning, and you're good to go. So what's going to happen here is my car has full self-drive package. So I bought my car back in November, like I said. Back then, it was $6,000 to add the full self-drive package. as you guys can see now, it's gone up to $7,000. So it's already gone up $1,000. And to be honest, all they've done is add a couple little things since then. So when I bought Full Self Drive, it was, you basically just changed lanes for you when you're on a freeway. And then, yeah, so you would do what's called I call it a manual lane change. I don't know what the real terminology is for it, but it's like where you basically put the blinker on, you press down all the way or hold down halfway, and what would happen is the car, then you take your hand off, and the car would just automatically change lanes for you when it was safe. Since then, what's happened is they've added summon feature to it, so where you could call your car to you and things like that. Then they've also added on-ramps and off-ramps being a part of navigating Autopilot, as well as the car automatically going, and changing lanes. So I'm going to turn here, and watch what happens as soon as I get on the freeway. So I'm turning on Autopilot now. I'm on the on-ramp, and see how now it's one line instead of two? By the way, that beep was it saying, hey man, make sure I'm doing what's right, put your hand on the wheel. So what we're watching for here right now as I merge onto this freeway is, see that? This is what I'm talking about. We're the ones merging, but it knows we have to merge. That's why that car is now dark gray instead of it just simply being, the regular color. Another fellow Model 3er. I hope you're subscribed to CF Tesla. Oh man, I'm full of myself. Okay, so the difference being here is that the car is now going to drive itself. It's going to pick the lane it wants to be in without me having to tell it where to be. So right now you see this blue up here. It's saying there's an upcoming lane change. It's not trying to find a spot for me yet. It's just telling me it's going to do that. I'm going to now flick my thumb to speed, putting my new max to 5 over. See, now it's indicated. It's now highlighted the lane it wants to be in. It's now, I'll tap the screen here and show you guys. You can see here that the reason I didn't go over was because that car was red, and thank you. And so that car let me in, so it made that, because that car backed off to let me in, it made it so it was no longer red anymore, so it's not concerned about that car, and then made the maneuver over. So that's kind of how that lane change works. So it gives you the blinker for you. It tells you, so now it's going to tell me it's going to get back over. So watch this. See, there's the car right there. It's red, so that's why it's not getting over yet. Now it's grayed. Now it tells the car it's now safe to get over, and it's going to get over. No problem. This car is going to shoot past me because it likes to go a little bit faster. And so that's great. Now it's going to keep me in this lane until the radar looks ahead and says, hey, it's time to get over so we can maintain your speed. So let's talk about the driving mode that I'm in. So if you hit your settings button, the little picture of a car, okay, and you go into your Autopilot, you're going to customize, navigate in Autopilot. I have my speed-based lane changes set to average. You can go up one more higher or one more lower. Mild is, it drives you nuts. It basically keeps you in the right lane way too long. You'll go down, I've gone down over 12 miles per hour sometimes before it'll actually change lanes and get over. And that's kind of the point of it. It's just kind of like keep me in my lane and eventually get me over. I'm glad that option's there. Maybe you're just chill and don't feel like the car should be bouncing around. Maybe you're in traffic and you don't want to have it chase in the lane that's going 1 mile an hour faster than you, that kind of thing. So average is great because it gets you over when you need to, but it's not like aggressive. Like if the car in front of you hits the brake a little bit, it's not gonna boom, jump you right over. It's gonna wait and go, well, are they really slowing down or are they not? And it'll give them a chance to accelerate again, and then you pick up your speed again. Again, touch the wheel because it just told me to. There. Mad Max is just a little bit too aggressive. I used to always, for the first 3 months, that's pretty much all I used was Mad Max. Because it was just kind of fun to really test out how well it did. But now that I'm in this phase where I'm like, well, I really just want to be real with my car and I want it to act the way that I would act if I'm driving, average is a really good place for me. I don't require lane change confirmation. If you're nervous about it just making a lane change on its own, you can come in here and say require lane change confirmation. And that's where, like, there's a couple ways you can do it. Like, it'll pop up and you can just tap it on the screen, tap to confirm. There's like a little thing up there you can tap. Or what you could do is you just put the blinker on. When it puts the blinker on, you put the blinker on as well. You just tap it and that just confirms, yes, it's okay to make that lane change. So if you're at a spot where you're nervous about using Navigate and Autopilot, come in here and put lane change confirmation on, and then you'll feel a lot better about the whole experience because you're still in control. It's instigating it, but you still have to say, yes, do it. And then you can work your way into letting the car do it on its own. So this is a good example right now of what average is going to do. You can see that I'm going 4 or 5 under the speed limit right now, and I'm going quite a bit under my max, and it's not making me get over. If I was in Mad Max, it would be making me get over right now. It also can see that there's quite a few cars zipping around me. So now it's going to actually make me get over here. So I'm going to put my hand on the wheel. And what it does is it vibrates my hand, letting me know it's making that lane change. There's so many things. Like you can't. It doesn't surprise you when it's going to make a lane change. It's very, very obvious, very, very evident it's going to make that lane change with the blinker, with the blue up here, with the highlighting the lane it's going to get into, and then it vibrating your hand. There's no surprise when it decides to actually do this. So if you're wondering still about full self-drive, so like I was starting to say, when I bought the car, it didn't do as much as it does now. So it was only $6,000. So they've added the summon feature. They've added the ability for it to get in and make its own lane changes, to do on-ramps, off-ramps, and just that alone brought the price up to $7,000. So they've added a few features and it's gone up $1,000, okay? So when you're thinking like, yeah, someday I want it, but I don't want to pay for it now because it's not even fully featured, you got to remember, just adding a few small, tiny features, it's not even coming close to the potential of it. There's just a few features brought up. So, okay, poor weather detection. So what just happened there was the weather, because of the rain, the blow up, obstructing the cameras and everything, it's now taken off Navigate and Autopilot. I'm on regular Autopilot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my blinker on. You can see there's a car in front of me here, and you see how quickly it gets over it. And it just kind of does, doing that all on its own. And now it's just going to stay in this lane. The difference now is that it'll keep me here until I tell it to change lanes. And you may say, okay, well, that's like regular Autopilot without full self-drive. Wrong. It would not have just done that lane change without me, if I didn't have full self-drive. When you still have to do the lane change, and it's really annoying. I'm actually going to take this exit. It's really, really annoying. What you have to do is you have to basically take it off Autopilot and make a lane change, and then re-engage Autopilot. And then when you want to get back over out of the fast lane, you have to put your blinker on, turn out of the lane. As soon as you start to turn the wheel, it kicks off Autopilot. Again, just the steering. It'll still keep the speed. And let's just make sure we're going here. And same thing. It will. You have to re-engage Autopilot. It's really annoying. So full self-drive gives you that feature when you're in regular Autopilot. So even regular Autopilot is different when you have full self-drive. I would buy it. Oh my gosh! If you can afford full self-drive, I would absolutely 100% get it, especially if you're planning on getting it someday and you live in the US. I know in the UK, you guys, it is like a different world for you out there. So if I'm sitting here going, if I was in the UK, would I get full self-drive? Your summon is virtually useless. Your Autopilot and the way your streets are and everything, again, I don't have any firsthand knowledge of this. I just hear from you guys constantly. So again, we're tracking me driving now. I would be an Autopilot. I can be. It's just that there's no one in front of me to stop me at the light. So if like right now, it's just, I would absolutely buy it, especially because think about it. Those few small little features that were added that made the price go up $1,000. Wait till they add real stuff like inner city driving and, being able to take you just to work, even if you have to still be touching the wheel as you will for quite a while before they remove that part of it. Like, just think about that. That's a massive function they're going to add to that, and if they'll bring it up $1,000 for just those few other small things, which are pretty cool things, imagine how high it's going to go. It would not surprise me if within 2 years you're paying, $10,000, $12,000 for the full self-drive option. Because come on, how much would you pay for a full self-driving vehicle, right? Like that's I mean, 10 years ago, that was like, people would pay $1 million for this. Okay, I don't know about that, but they'd pay a lot of money. So yeah, I could see it going over 10 grand, easy, when full self-drive actually becomes functional. So, but yes, even if it doesn't, and this is the thing a lot of people are thinking about, well, what if it never comes? The functions you get already are worth, in my opinion, they were worth $6,000. And I would say, yes, they're probably worth $7,000 as well on there. So, I mean, yes, for sure. If I was buying this car today, I would absolutely have paid $7,000 for full self-drive. Hands down. Hands down, absolutely. Now look at this. I'll put it in autopilot right next to these cones. Look what it does here. It makes me hover. Interesting. The car right there just hit the brakes when it saw this red light. You see that red light indicator? I'll have to look back on the screen there. We'll reanalyze that.
Okay, now so looking at this in post, what we see here is that the total drive was 25 minutes and 33 seconds. Autopilot took 18 minutes and 8 seconds of that drive, and I only had to drive 7 minutes and 25 seconds, and a lot of that was just simply sitting at lights waiting, and I had a total of 8 times when I had to turn it off autopilot.
One thing I'll do maybe for you guys, just as a little extra bonus here at the end, is we'll go find a parking spot while we're in here, and we'll do an auto park. For those of you guys who are new to Tesla and maybe haven't seen this done, this auto park feature works, well, it's never not worked for me. So let's go find a spot. But what you need is you need to be between two cars to do it. Yeah, and there's no real spot here to do it. We'll try it. There's one right here, but there's a massive speed bump. So you hit the park, you shift into reverse, and then you tap start. And then what happens is the car is going to work itself into this parking spot. But it's got this great big speed bump it's got to contend with. So we'll see how well it does here. Luckily, it's got a lot of torque. That's the thing, is it went off the bump right as we were getting right close to the car, but it still handled it really well. And so you can see here, it's doing 100% of it. You know, obviously you guys can see my hands, and it's going to back me right into this spot. And it does, I mean, you can see this is outlining the spot. You'll see how straight it gets me in there. And again, one of the tires right now is currently on the speed bump. Like, it is dealing with some stuff right now. If I was doing this on my own, I'd be like, this is tough. But you can see it starting to straighten me out there. And it's going to give me a little bit more space. I don't know why that's looking that way, because I'm actually perfectly square between the two cars. So you can see there, it's perfectly squared there, as well as over here. Thanks for watching another one of my videos. It would help me out so much if you would take a second and go down and hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I want to just take a quick second now and thank my Patreons for all your support. We are just getting started. Now, we all like to buy awesome new accessories to protect our Model 3 and just make it that much cooler. So take a second and check out our amazing sponsors here offering you guys killer discounts right here on this channel. My goal is to every week do a rate this drive, do some kind of a Tesla vlog type video, and then multiple times a month on Fridays do a review, unboxing, and a giveaway for you guys right here on this channel. You have X-Technor offering you a 15% discount on products like windshield wipers and air cabin filters. You have the Rideshare Shop offering you a 10% discount on A through Z, anything for your Model 3, on products like power lift gates for your trunk, to USB hubs, and so much more. And lastly, you have EV Armor, who champions protecting all those surfaces in your car with amazing wraps like center console wraps to charging port wraps. And they also offer you guys, my subscribers, a 10% discount. To get those discount codes, just go down below in the description. You'll see their links. You'll see my code. Go to their website, enter my code in. You get to save money. Everybody wins. Don't pay more than you have to, guys. All right, I love you all. See you on the next one.